Mimi ni mwanaharakati. I am an ex-Muslim, which means nilizaliwa kwenye Muslim family and I am no longer a Muslim. And I fight for women's rights, haki za wanawake, specifically for those wanaotoka familia ya Muislamu. And a lot of my work is about helping women be free, helping them with mental health, talking to them about their abuse, but also advocating against laws and against the Sharia law that impact women's rights, including the right of freedom of speech. So mimi nimezaliwa Tanzania. Nimetoka Tanzania kusoma kwenye Malaysia in 2009. So imekuwa mwaka 12 sasa. Alafu niliishi Australia mwaka 8. Nimepata uraia wa Australia. Alafu nilihama London, UK. By profession, niko engineer na analyst, na alafu nayo charity yangu Faithless Hijabi, which I use to help a lot of women from the Middle East, from Tanzania, from Kenya, and also from London, the UK. I was arrested on the 28th of December for 2 days. And I am still waiting on a confirmed charge sheet, and it's been 4 weeks now, 4.5 weeks, and a court date. So that's what has happened in the public eye. I have still not been charged, and I'm waiting to leave because I feel very unsafe here. Mostly because I've received a lot of death threats, especially since the news came out about my arrest. So right now we're just waiting on the government to basically, or the police to basically move forward with my case. So wiki mbili kabla arrest yangu, nimepata simu, mtu anaita Jackson. He said I had given him my number. Yani, he was harassing me. And I don't give people my number. Hamna mtu anayo namba yangu, except for the orphanages I work for. And nimemblock, alafu nimeongea na kakangu, kampigia Jackson simu, and he told Jackson not to harass me. And 2 weeks or a week after that, kakangu anapata simu kwa polisi. Amesema kama mtu complain na simu na hiyo imetoka from cyber department. Sasa hatujajua kesi gani yoyote, hamna yoyote explanation tuliyopata, na alafu ilikuwa kabla ya public holidays. Tumeongea na wakili, tumehama ile appointment na police until Monday, and I was in the car na kakangu. Yeye kaenda polisi. Baada dakika 10 nimepata simu kwa kakangu, kasema, Zara, hiyo ni ajili ya Facebook post yako, naomba ukuje hapo juu. Sasa mimi ni mwanaharakati, nayo activism yangu, post yangu iko ajili ya women rights, it's about human rights, na it's about free speech as well. So I assumed that the post was done for blasphemy. So before niliingia police station, I tweeted in, okay, I'm going into the police station, someone may have reported me for blasphemy, because that's most of my posts. And nimepiga tweet, nimeingia ndani, they took all my phones. Wameniuliza jina yako nini, nimeomba legal name yangu, hawajajua legal name yangu, umejua Zara Kay na profile yake. Na alafu kakaangu, kwa sababu kakaangu kampigia yule polisi simu, so that person was a police. Wamepigia simu na alafu they asked me for my ID card, and nilisema sina ID card kwa sababu I'm not Tanzanian, niko Australian. Hawajafahamu kama I had an Australian passport. Wameshangaa kwa sababu familia yangu wanayo passport uraia wa Tanzania na mimi ninayo uraia wa Australia. Until then they didn't know my legal name. Nimekuja Tanzania in September, and this arrest was made in December. I came with the same name, with my Australian passport, on a visa. And then I extended my visa because of COVID. Poa alafu women, they called me in and they were questioning me, and they asked the wamenionyesha Facebook profile yangu. They asked if it was my profile. I said yes. So they showed me a post, and it was about Magfuli's Idris Sultan's arrest because of Magfuli.
A Twitter post.
It was a Facebook post.
A Facebook.
Yeah, ndio. Ilikuwa Facebook post. In that post, nilichukua BBC article na niliandika that this is not a good case. He shouldn't be arrested for his free speech. He showed me the post for 20 seconds, and I was like, yes, this is my post. And then they were like, okay, cool, we're going to interrogate you. You've committed a crime. You've spoken about the president. This was at Oysterbay Police, yes, cybercrime unit. They took me to the interrogation room, and they told me to tell them about my whole story because, they didn't know I was Australian. They're like, how can you be? So I asked from when they told me to write a statement from when I was born, what schools I went to, and when I moved to Australia, how old I was, how I got my Australian citizenship. And when he showed me the post again in question, it was a post niliandika May 2020. I was in London, and it was also a post about his handling on COVID-19. So there were two posts. Kakaangu wamemonesha post tano. 3 of them were about my former community, the Koja Shia Ithnashari Jamaat, the Shia community that I come from in Tanzania. They showed me 2 posts about Magfuli that I wrote when I wasn't even in Tanzania. I'm not even Tanzanian. I came here as a visitor to visit my family. And then they asked me how I got my citizenship. In that time when they were interrogating me, the police officer who had called me, who had called my brother, ameingia, amesema kama, nasema uongo, sio uraia wa Australia, niko uraia wa Tanzania, nimesoma hapo. Lakini hata hawajacheck na embassy yangu. They never called my embassy to let them know I'm an Australian citizen. They've arrested me on what grounds? I had to tell my brother to call the embassy, and that's when they panicked because I don't have a Tanzanian. And then they're like, when did you lose, they asked me, when did you lose your Tanzanian citizenship? And I'm like, I haven't used my passport since I got my Australian citizenship. I don't know where it is because I've moved from Australia to UK and I've moved houses. So, na inawezekana kama imepotea utakuwa kwenye UK kwa sababu mimi niko hapo, I came with my Australian passport. And that was it. The interrogation took 8 hours or 6 to 8 hours. And after interrogating me about the passport and the social media post, they put me in a car. I had no idea where we were going. They're like, we're going to your house for a house search. They never showed me a warrant. They came to my house and I didn't even have the keys because they didn't tell me what they were doing. So I had to wait for the keys. They searched my house. They didn't find anything. This house, yes. So they didn't find anything except for my electronic book. They took that. And at this point, I was here. Na dadangu kaleta pasipoti ya Australia yangu kumwonesha kama anayo uraia wa Australia, anayo pasipoti. They took my passport, they took my phone, and they brought me back to the police station at about 8 p.m. Now, until 6 or 5 p.m., I hadn't eaten all day. I hadn't had my meds because I have anxiety and I need to have my meds every 12 hours. And, you know, I wrote it in my statement that I'm pressured, I haven't eaten, I'm tired. And initially, walianza kuuliza kama visa gani nimechukua. Nimesema naona ilikuwa tourist visa. So they're like, so you said you're on a tourist visa. Alafu unakaa na family. That is not the right visa. And then I realized for tourist visa and visitor visa, it's one, the same visa. It's called an ordinary visa. And I ticked visiting family and friends. And part of visiting family and friends means that we went on a holiday to Zanzibar. I didn't know that was a crime, that I can't go on a holiday with my family. And after that, I told them, okay, maybe it's a visitor visa. I don't know, I'm tired. You've put me in this room for 6 hours. I haven't eaten. I haven't got my meds. You can clearly see my health is deteriorating. I'm tired, like I was like falling asleep, right? Because I don't have my meds. And this is very anxiety driving. You know, you're in the room, you're WhatsApping and you're laughing and you're meant to interrogate me.
You are alone in the room.
I was with my lawyer. I was with my lawyer, my first lawyer, before the case. We didn't even know what the case was about. They didn't even tell us what post it was about until I got in the room. And they took all my devices, and I'd already tweeted it, right? Because I didn't know what it was about. And now I saw that they were taking the interrogation for a long time because the officer was on his phone, and they were just prolonging it until the evening. And initially, the police officer, the senior police officer who caught me, one day yelled at me for speaking English. Now, as you can tell, Swahili is not my first language. Bado, like I'm still learning because I've been here for a while. And when I speak in English, because if it's a technical issue, I'll speak in English. They yelled at me for speaking in English. When I asked the police officer, when he asked me for my number to put on paper, I asked him, what number do you want, my UK number or my Tanzanian number? He hit the table to intimidate me. I was being cooperative. All I did was ask questions. They yelled at me. And I even said, you can't talk to me like that. We're talking with respect. I'm cooperating. And he said, I'm the police. I can do what I want. You're in a police station. So clearly they were trying to intimidate me. But I was fine. They saw that I wasn't scared. I went in. I've done nothing wrong. I have gone in. And they started interrogating me. And like I said, they took a long time. They came to my house, found nothing. I had a bit of food. They took me back to the police station to take another statement. And in the last statement, they didn't write that they had taken a first statement. And they didn't write that I hadn't had my pills the entire day and my health is deteriorating. And that, you know, me not being on meds means that you've caused me high duress and stress. We had an argument for 5 minutes where I said, I'm not signing it until you write my complete statement. And again, the head officer started yelling at me. He intimidated me. He said, if you don't sign it, we're going to put you in the jail. And I'm like, but this is an incomplete statement. And then, you know, I saw that he was scaring my family as well. I clearly knew that this wasn't just me not being cooperative or me not. They wanted me to sign a false statement that it was incomplete because they couldn't admit that I hadn't had my pills. I was tired. You've taken me in the room for 8 hours, right? And this is now at night at 10 p.m. This is at 10 p.m. So I went in the morning at like 11ish, 10ish. And this is at 10 p.m., right? And I go in, you know, I sign the statement. I'm like, fine, I'll sign the statement. What happens is they put me in jail anyway, right? So they said they wouldn't do it. We already had bail papers ready. The bail papers weren't accepted because it was already late. So they interrogated me from 10 a.m. Bail papers were there at 4 with my passport. Everything was in order. They put me in jail anyway.
So you slept at the police station that night?
Yeah. I slept at the police station. And before I was put in a room, before I was put in the jail, they gave me a room to eat. And while I was there, a police officer started asking me if I was married. And I said, no, I have a boyfriend. Alafu kasema takuoa. And I was like, no. And I'm like, one, I don't believe in marriage, but like, no. And he kept saying it, and he's like, fine, then. And he said, I want to have kids with you. And I said, no, like, you're in a position of power, and you're talking to me like that, and I'm a woman. And then
did you report that to?
I didn't make a formal report until recently because I was scared. I was told, if you bring this up right now, you'll be charged with something else. So I was again scared. And obviously, I think one of the reasons was that the people I was talking to were all men. They didn't have to go through what I had to go through. For them, it's a joke. For me, you're in a position of power. I'm tired. I'm scared because what have I done? I think it was like, I'm fine talking to people, but then when they started being sexist and they started throwing accusations, the police officer also said, "Kabla uondoke takumpa zawadi." That wasn't a present, that was a rape threat, because we weren't talking about presents. And I remember these words because in my head I was like, it was scary because that's a rape threat. You know, we weren't
Tanzania.
Yeah, before you leave, right? And because we were talking about, he was talking about how he wanted to marry me, have kids with me, and I'm like, no, and like, you know, no. Yes, yes, my maid was there. My maid was there, and she can bear witness to it. So, you know, he's like, give me a number, and I gave him my Tanzanian number because I'm like, what if, you know, after the room, they're like, you know what, she was nice and cooperative, we'll let her go. I didn't know any of that. You know. So
you slept at the police station, and when you woke up in the morning?
I barely slept, but I was sleeping, and that police officer, two of them came to my jail cell. And I was, obviously when I had my pills, they're sleeping pills as well, and I was asleep and they held my face. So he basically held my face to wake me up, and I didn't wake up. And then he did it again, and that's when I realized that he had done it before. It was probably around 4 a.m.-ish. And I was like, what is happening? And then the next day, they said they'll release us at 6 a.m. Like, they'll release me at 6 a.m. because other people who were in the... two women came in later at night. And they were also in the jail. So, you know, they saw it happening. Like, you know, somebody touching me. After that, you know, the other women were released. I was still inside. They said that release us at 6 a.m., nothing until 11 a.m. You know, the lawyers have been there since the morning. We had another lawyer then we had a defense lawyer. No movement. We were talking to everyone, and I had no idea to date what was happening. And then they let me go at about, I think, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. I can't remember. It was late again at night. But even before I went to jail, I remember sitting with crossed legs, and somebody's like, and like my leg, a part of my leg was showing, and he said, Nani tania, right? And I was like, why? Like, kwanini? This was a cop, this was a police again. And I'm like, it's skin, it's my leg. Like, why are you talking? Like, how am I teasing you? And he's like, you're a woman. And I'm like, well, your hands are showing. And he went like, yeah, but men and women are different. Men think differently when women sit like that or show their skin. And, you know, again, my maid was there the entire time. And she was like, just sit down. Like, we don't want anything to happen to you. I don't know. They never told me. They questioned me for multiple different things. They never told me. They never gave me a control number. It's up to date. I do not have a charge sheet. I don't have a control number. I can't even go to the embassy and tell them these are my charges. I don't have a court date. So a week later, they took me to the immigration at like 7, 8 a.m. So I was meant to report at 7 a.m. Took me to the immigration. Same thing happened for 4 hours of interrogating me on the same thing. The immigration officer also intimidated me, saying that if I said anything about the interrogation, because I'd already, my tweets had already gone high and my friends had already posted that I was in jail, right? So the immigration officer intimidated me, asking me questions. They're like, how did you get your Australian citizenship? And, you know, I couldn't understand everything he was saying in Swahili. I had a lawyer with me, but he kept pushing. He kept pushing, and he's like, imagine if somebody applies for an American visa and goes on your passport because you've lost it. And I said, I'm not sure what the passport is. It could be in the UK, but I'm here. And I was also asked, why do you hate Tanzania? And I'm like, hang on, why am I being asked that question? I got my Australian citizenship. I've never used my Tanzanian passport. Even then, they couldn't point out a law that says that I should be incriminated. Before I left the immigration, even like before I got in touch, like even before I left the office, the citizen had already printed out news giving out my personal details. The two passports, the two Tanzanian passports I had, the old one and then the new one, not the very new one we have now. This was like the passport that I had in 2015 to that's something that's going on, or 2014, and the one when I was a child. So those are the two passports I had. And they had already released my details. They said it's an immigration issue because I didn't hand over my passport. They wrote details of my full name, knowing very well that I'm an activist and I get threats on a daily basis. They put my passport number out, my Australian current passport number out after they'd confiscated it. And that's it. And then they put me in a room for another 6 hours. They didn't want me, so I'm already on bail. They took me back to the police station. They didn't want me to talk to my sister. They didn't want me to talk to my embassy. They took my lawyer's phone because I asked my lawyer to call the embassy. So they took my lawyer's phone. And I don't understand why. They never, like, if they're asking me about my citizenship, they should have at least called the Australian embassy and asked them, can you confirm she's a citizen? Like, that's all we need, right? They never let me do that. To date, they haven't even reached out to Australian authorities. They haven't given me a court date. I was meant to report there every day, and then I told the head officer, and I told her, you know, I was sexually harassed, and she asked why I didn't report it. And I'm like, every time I come into the police station, one person or the other will say, you're pretty, takuoa, you need an African man, you know. And I was just like, they're abusing me, and you want me to go and tell them that I was sexually harassed? Do you think it's safe for me to do that? Because I come in here every day and have to remember what happened to me. And, you know, like, how can I trust being safe here? So they reduced it to one day a week. With the reports that I've gotten, and how far media has covered, I have been told that it was instigated by my former community. When I mentioned before that the police officer started yelling at me, I don't see any sane police officer yelling at me for being cooperative, for not even having committed a crime, and they're still interrogating me. And he just started yelling at me when I asked, what number do you want? That's when I realized that they have been paid, but also I'd been receiving a lot of threats while being in Tanzania. People hated that I was here with my family, especially from my community. They hated that I was here. A lot of people, when I came here, had warned my family. They said, this is Tanzania, she can't just post anything, otherwise they'll jail her. We had this from multiple people, like let's say 4 or 5 people. And then there was a post on Dark Crime Alerts on Facebook saying we should get her arrested for talking about religion. And then my community members had previously sent me death threats. And every time I posted anything on Facebook, not even about religion, I would always get attacked. And they're like, go back to your country, why are you here? And I am convinced that maybe they are. Maybe they are. I don't have full certainty. But I think, you know, they found a post that I wrote in May that would hold up, and I wasn't even here. Neither the community nor the police knew that I was an Australian citizenship. And they've charged me with an immigration issue of not returning my Tanzanian citizenship. What I don't understand is why, when they take me to court, why when they give me a charge, the fine is 500,000 shillings, I can just pay it and I want to leave, because I've been getting more threats, the kidnapping threats, the rape threats, the behead her threats, and I don't think the police here or the Australian authorities are taking it seriously enough. I came to Tanzania on a last-minute flight to see my family because my dad's health was deteriorating. So he's right now at home and nurses come every night. But also, I came to see my brother. He's going through a divorce. It's all very public on my posts. And it's COVID. I was on lockdown. So I guess the best thing to do then is to spend time with your family, because who knows what's going to happen with COVID. Who knows, I never get a chance again. And Tanzanian borders had opened up. So I came here. I came with my boyfriend. He was introduced to my family as well. So we both came here on a visitor visa. And then he left a month before I was arrested. So he left in November. And I stayed back because, again, I wanted to spend more time with my family. The only activities I've done while being here is going to the orphanages, donating clothes. I celebrated my birthday with the blind school, the disabled school. I have been trying to support kids in education and women in menstrual health. So that's the only activities that I've been here, like trying to support Tanzanians, because this is my home. Even if I'm not even if I'm not a citizen here, this is still my home. My family's here, and for me, it's important to grow the people of Tanzania. So in any way I can. So that means I was, trying to, I guess, help diminish poverty in some ways. All of it. They've always been supportive. I think the way my family and I, the way I was raised, we've always had each other's back, even if they're Muslims and I'm not, and they don't agree with me, but they've never once incited violence. So the fact that the community have gone to this length, it's very new to them. They don't understand it. They're like, why would anybody do that? So they have always had my back. They've been quite supportive in making sure that I have my rights. One, it's my own charity and my own friends who I have worked with. Faithless Hijabi is my charity, and we have a board, and they have been helping me with it. But a lot of them have been ex-Muslims internationally who own their own charities that have been working out. Other secular organizations. Previously, I was briefly in touch with Amnesty International. And I know they're monitoring this very closely, but most of them have been atheist organizations. One, I'm being unfairly held here against my will, with no clear charges indicated, and two, my life is in threat while being here. I'm not safe here. I thought I was, because this is not an Islamic country. I haven't been able to sleep for the weeks. I have PTSD. I can't, when I sleep, I think about the time somebody coming into jail. Had there not been other prisoners, what would have happened to me? The fact that the police officer can just yell at me for speaking English, or not being a Tanzanian citizen, I also forgot to mention, when they put me in the car, they refused to open the window and it was so hot, or even turn on the air condition, and I had to scream. I was like, I can't breathe. And the police officer also racially abused me. He said, why are you here? Kwa nini uko kwenye nchi yetu? Ondoka, nenda Australia. And I could not understand. I was like, am I not? This is my home too. This is my family's home too. Am I not allowed to be here? All of that has left me traumatized, and the fact that I'm not getting a court date or a charge sheet, it's hard because I don't know what's going to happen next. I can't leave the house. I can't go out because I get threats and I don't want to not take them seriously. But I had high hopes that, you know, I'd be safe in Tanzania, that I could continue coming here and working with charities. But now I can't because I can't return. I've lost my job, and the government does not care that they're still working, they're still doing their job. So they've caused me much distress in the past 5 weeks. Well, one, I couldn't work at all because, you know, I'm not in the UK, but at the same time, now I don't have a job to come back to. Now I can't go and see my boyfriend in the UK because, you know, you've kept my passport and my visa expires and I'm meant to be in the UK to renew it. So I now have to go to Australia, wait for months to apply for a visa, to then go back to the UK, and that could possibly take a year. So they've kind of destroyed my whole life right now, including my personal relationships. I'm meant to report back on Friday, and it doesn't look like they're going to proceed because we've tried calling the police and asking them what's happening. Are we going to the court? Can we just go to the court? I think it will at least take another month, if not more. And in the meantime, I have nothing to do. I am trapped at home. It's a lockdown that they have in the West without a job. So I'm not earning money. I've lost my job. I can't apply for another job because I can't work in Tanzania. And it just seems like they just don't care. To be taken to court or the charges to be dropped. I want the government and the police to be honest about why they arrested me. I want them to give me my passport back. I want to leave. I do not feel safe here. I want the Australian authorities to intervene and ask them to speed up this case because I am not safe.